Just to be clear, this review isn't late for Halloween, it's early for Halloween 2026. Hello, welcome to the Book Thing. My name is Mark, and today I'm talking about Something Wicked, This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury.
For some, autumn comes early, stays late through life, where October follows September and November touches October, and then instead of December and Christ's birth, there is no Bethlehem star, no rejoicing, but September comes again, and old October, and so on down the years, with no winter, spring, or reviving summer. For these beings, fall is the ever-normal season, the only weather, there be no choice beyond. Where do they come from? The dust. Where do they go? The grave. Does blood stir in their veins? No, the night wind. What ticks in their head? The worm. What speaks from their mouth? The toad. What sees from their eye? The snake. What hears from their ear? The abyss between the stars. They sift the human storm for souls, eat flesh of reason, fill tombs with sinners. They frenzy forth in guts, they beetle scurry, creep, thread, filter, motion, make all moons sullen, and surely cloud all clear-run waters. The spider web hears them, trembles, breaks. Such are the autumn people. Beware of them.
Ray Bradbury, American author born in 1920 and well known for being pretty prolific in the amount that he wrote. He wrote a significant amount of science fiction, fantasy, horror. He wrote loads and loads of short stories, was involved in several screenplays, wrote a lot of poetry as well. He's probably best known for his works, The Martian Chronicles, which is kind of a novel made up of several of his short stories about colonizing Mars. His science fiction novel Fahrenheit 451, which is the story of a fireman who in this dystopian setting does not put out fires but burns books. And also for Something Wicked This Way Comes, which is, I suppose you could class it really as a kind of a dark fantasy. Ray Bradbury was born in Illinois and spent much of his childhood there, and that is where this story is set. It's in a small town in Illinois and centers on two young boy protagonists, next door neighbors and born just a couple of minutes apart from each other on opposite sides of midnight. You've got Will Halloway and Jim Nightshade. Will lives with his parents and Jim lives with his single mother. There is, I think it's kind of implied that Jim's father has died, but I don't think that is really explained in the book. And what initiates the story is the arrival in town of this carnival by train in the middle of the night. It's called Cougar and Dark's Pandemonium Shadow Show. And the boys in the middle of the night get up, sneak out of their rooms and go to see this carnival being erected in the middle of the night. I think you can probably guess by the name of it what the sort of style of carnival this is going to be. It's led by the mysterious illustrated man, Mr. Dark, a man covered in various different tattoos, which seem to have a life of their own. And it has attractions like a strange freak show, which contains Mr. Electrico and a witch and a human skeleton and all of these various different malformed humans. There is a strange hall of mirrors which has a profound effect on anyone who goes into it. And at the center of the whole show is this out of order, seemingly, carousel. The boys, especially Jim, develop this fascination with what's going on at the carnival and start to look at some things that are going on after hours and then start to see something that probably they shouldn't have seen. I don't really think it's a spoiler to say that Mr. Dark is the antagonist in this particular story, but essentially the boys fall afoul of Mr. Dark. He doesn't know quite who they are, but he starts searching the town and sending his various different minions out to try and sniff them out. And as the story progresses, the boys enlist the help of Will's father, Charles Halloway, who is the janitor in the local library, who spends most of his evenings there doing his custodial work, but also reading a lot, and he seems to also be pondering on his life. Charles had Will late in life, so even though Will is in his very early teens, Charles is in his mid-50s, and Charles has an awful lot of, I wouldn't say regrets, but certainly yearnings for the time of his youth. He looks at the two boys and wishes that he could do more with his son than he is able to do at his older age. And as the story progresses, it does start to focus more and more on Charles, because some of the things that we start to realize about this story is that it's about temptation and being given what you want but not exactly what you want, and a lot of it is about the passage of time and how youthful boys are in a hurry to grow up and older men are in a hurry to see their youth all over again. There's an afterword in this book that's written by Bradbury himself, and he talks about various different seeds of ideas that went into becoming Something Wicked This Way Comes. One of the most prominent ones he talks about is when he went to a carnival in his youth and saw this act called Mr. Electrico, like the Mr. Electrico that he puts in his own freak show. And this real Mr. Electrico had a massive impact on the young Ray Bradbury's life. So young Ray went to see him, and it was all about, you know, static electricity and making hair stand on end and all this sort of thing. And this Mr. Electrico dubbed him with this rod or sword or whatever it was, and he pointed at him and said, "Live forever." And this had this massive impact on him. And the next day, Ray Bradbury went back to this carnival and met the Mr. Electrico again, who went and showed him the freak show that they had there, including an illustrated man, and they sat and talked. And Mr. Electrico then said to him that he knew Ray Bradbury because he'd met him years earlier in the Great War, where he'd died in Flanders, I think, and said he could see the soul of his friend having come back. Now you can imagine, for an imaginative kid like Ray Bradbury, what this had as an impact on him. And apparently from that day forward he started writing, and he wrote every day pretty much until he died. So you can see there's kind of a self-insert of Bradbury at multiple points in the story. First up, obviously, there's the two boys. And the two boys represent two very different parts of childhood. There's one which is reveling in the childhood that they've got. And then there's the other who is in a hurry to start growing up. There's an incident described where the boys are aware of this window in the house where people are seen undressing, and Jim has this fascination with this and is always climbing the tree to see what he can see in through this window, and Will doesn't have that same fascination. So, you know, you can see that Jim is trying to get out of his childhood as quickly as he can. And then the other self-insert is very much the older Charles Holloway, who is a man who has consumed lots and lots of books, has this great imagination, but maybe hasn't done everything in his life that he wants to, and then yearns for those younger days when he could have kept up with the energy of his young son. Bradbury's prose style in this is very, very lyrical and poetic. It's a bit Marmite. I suspect for as many people who love his style, there'll be equally as many people who find it a bit overwritten and purple. And there's an argument to say that it's maybe purple's overstating it, but there might be a shade of lilac in there. Because the way that everything is conveyed in this, it is all beautiful, poetic language, and it's all about evoking feelings of nostalgia and longing and fear and good and evil. And even the dialogue, there's no dialogue in there that really feels like it could be typical of a 14-year-old boy. It is all very poetic and very evocative. And people will either love that or hate it. Personally, I loved it. I love the atmosphere of the story. I loved the characterization because even though they didn't feel realistic, they felt real. It felt like there was a depth to them and you understand who they were, what they wanted. And if you are enjoying it, you kind of have to go along for the ride. Enjoy the language, soak it up, take your time with it, let it bring out all of the various different moods and themes that it wants to bring out. It's not flawless. I think there are elements to the story which are kind of hand-waved away a little bit when the boys and Charles start to understand the nature of who the carnival are and the fact that they have been coming for a long time. Charles makes these huge leaps of understanding about what the nature of Cougar and Dark's carnival is and who they are. And there's some logical leaps as well about how Charles and the boys understand how they can actually combat Dark and his minions as well. And I wouldn't say there are plot holes, but there are certainly gaps left to both the imagination and also to the intuition of Charles rather than the research that he actually does. But it's a very minor niggle. It's a lovely book. It is an ideal read for Halloween. Unfortunately, I didn't get finished quite for Halloween. It took me a couple of days into November to get to it, but I really, really enjoyed it. And it seems like it's been a massive influence on other writers as well. Apparently Margaret Atwood was very inspired by Ray Bradbury, Clive Barker as well, and Stephen King is the one who I see especially. And I read Something Wicked This Way Comes and I see where the ideas from books like Needful Things and It started to germinate from in Stephen King's own mind. So I liked it a lot. I gave it 4 stars, and as the first book that I'm ticking off my 50 before 50 list, I'm really pleased with that. In case you didn't know, I did a couple of videos a wee while ago about the 50 books that I want to read before I'm 50, and the first one of those that I've read off this list is Something Wicked This Way Comes. So you can see here on the list, it's the only one that is been marked as read. So hopefully over the coming months, we'll start to see that fill out a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to do a review for every single book on my 50 before 50 list, but I thought I'd at least do the first one. And if you keep watching them and I keep enjoying making them, then I'll carry on with them. In the meantime though, thanks a million for taking the time to watch this. Really appreciate you doing that. And take care.